This is Newsmax TV. I'm Ashley Martella. A very controversial mosque is planned only a stone's throw from the site of the worst ever terrorist attack on U.S. soil. And the National Republican Trust has put out a controversial ad opposing the mosque.
And to celebrate that murder of 3,000 Americans, they want to build a monstrous 13-story mosque at Ground Zero.
Joining us now is the group's executive director, Scott Wheeler. He's a former television producer and investigative journalist. Mr. Wheeler has produced 17 TV documentaries and consulted on over a dozen others. He's also author of the book, Shadow Government: What Obama Doesn't Want You to Know About His Czars. He's written extensively on U.S. national security issues. Welcome to Newsmax again, Scott.
Thanks. Good to be with you again, Ashley.
So this ad of yours, the networks won't run it. It's set up on YouTube and your website for folks to see. Certainly a powerful statement. Is it too much?
Oh, I don't think so. I think the American people needed to be informed about what this means and what a mosque at Ground Zero means. And I think the ad does it in a very brief and hard-hitting way, but clearly, this should have been covered under the First Amendment. The networks broadcast on the people's airwaves. People were entitled to see it.
All right, Scott, in your column on your website, you raise questions about the mosque's funding. Who's going to pay to build this $100 million 13-story mosque?
Well, that we don't know because the builders of the mosque refuse to disclose who's going to be funding it. It appears that they're abroad raising money for it right now, which is one of the reasons we should be concerned. If there are radicals, if there are those people around the world, radical Islamists, that would like to see a shrine to their 19 martyrs on September 11th built this close to the where the World Trade Center stood, then we know that we should put this under scrutiny. We should be very circumspect about allowing this project to go forward. This could actually radicalize more Islamists around the world for future attacks against the United States, Ashley. It's a very serious national security matter for which very few people here in the government, that is, are paying much attention to.
Although the new building would be named Park 51, it was originally proposed as Cordoba House. Now, the word Cordoba has great significance in Islamic culture and history. Please explain what it means and what it signifies, and why do you think the name was changed?
Well, I think it started out even early on, according to others who have done a lot of legwork on this. It started out they were referring to it as the Ground Zero Mosque. And then the Cordoba Initiative was set up by this Imam Rauf, who started the Cordoba Initiative and then called this project the Cordoba Project. Well, referring to Cordoba, Spain, where the Muslim conquerors took over a heavily Christian and Jewish area and built a huge mosque to demonstrate their superiority. And this project is not dissimilar to many others around the world. For example, the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem sits atop the Jews' only holy place in the world. And they've done it to demonstrate conquest. And that gives us sufficient reason to question this project as well.
Why do you think the name was changed to Park 51?
Well, I think clearly it was a public relations stunt. They knew they were in trouble with Cordoba. Myself and others had raised questions about the origins and the meaning of that phrase, that term, and so they abandoned it and went to another name, Park 51, now a more urban style, upscale title. And I think it's all a public relations sham. They know they could raise significant money around the world to build a mosque at this location because it's a place where radical Islamists were able to successfully attack, make a devastatingly successful attack on the United States, and they want to commemorate it. They know that there are many who hate the West. They want to impose Sharia law on us, and this was their objective, was to erect this shrine. And so even though, and this is typical of Islam, they have a front group of people who are, oh, we want peace, we want to bridge the gap of we want this to create an interfaith dialogue. Well, look, if the people behind the mosque want to show peace and goodwill, they could start by vigorously denouncing terrorism, and they haven't done that.
Do you think the site was chosen as a provocation to New Yorkers and Americans in general?
No question about it, and I've said that all along. In fact, I call it the Trojan Mosque. This was done as an intentional act of provocation against the United States.
While talking about the 9/11 attacks, the imam you mentioned, the one behind the mosque, suggested United States policies were responsible for the attack. What kind of message does that send to the families of the victims?
Oh, I think it was a very nasty excuse, really, for saying that we somehow invited this attack. How ridiculous that is, and typical of Islamist propaganda, of trying to suggest that we did something to provoke being attacked on 9/11. And the fact is, even whether we have done anything or not done anything, whatever, they would have justified the attack in any way they could. Because we're in Saudi Arabia, they attacked us. If we weren't in Saudi Arabia, they would have attacked us for that. It doesn't matter. They will not let up. They're relentless in their pursuit of destroying the West, the radical Islamists I speak of.
Scott, you say in one of your recent columns, Islamic extremists know our vulnerabilities and take prompt advantage of them. Please explain that.
Well, they know that in an open society, that we have to tolerate people who disagree with us. They know that we have to tolerate certain behavior. They also know that we have a very soft underbelly in our mainstream media, which refuses to acknowledge the facts and will always take up the cause of any anti-American group. So they use this as a defense. And again, it's the Trojan horse strategy. They come and claim they're here for peace, and then do things that are extremely provocative, and they take it to the extent of the law. In that column, I explain a lot of a lot of how this works in terms of they can provoke us, they can scare us, they can terrorize people without ever even breaking the law, acting suspiciously on aboard airplanes where people are susceptible to be a little more intimidatable, and yet they haven't broken the law. And so that's what we've seen over and over again, of videotaping of military bases. Every military base in the United States has been filmed by someone looking Mediterranean or Arabic looking. And these are all provocations.
You mentioned the mainstream media, Scott. In your opinion, how complicit are they in our conflict with radical Islam?
Well, I think, if I may say something so strong, with radical Islam and the 80% of the American press corps, and the very liberal people in the United States share a common enemy, and that's the United States of America. The only thing they have in common is their shared hatred of American values.
And finally, are the policies of the Obama administration making us vulnerable to another big terrorist attack, in your opinion?
I think clearly that is the case, that they have made us vulnerable in a number of ways by apologizing around the world for things that the United States should not have to apologize for. They have taken action. They've weakened us. They've weakened the military. They've announced that we're willing to negotiate with tyrants such as Ahmadinejad in Iran. And that gives them power and strength, and it increases their influence in the Middle East. And I think, again, weakens us. We have now become a state sponsor of terrorism by sending $400 million in aid to the Hamas-run Gaza Strip. This sends our enemies a clear message, and that is that we can be intimidated and that we are sympathetic with them no matter how many Jews they kill in Israel.
the Executive Director of the National Republican Trust PAC, Scott Wheeler. Scott, thanks so much for speaking with us again. Very interesting stuff.
Good to be with you, Ashley.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.